Hello, thank you so much for joining me. Today we are doing lesson 166. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. All things are given you. God's trust in you is limitless. He knows his son. He gives without exception, holding nothing back that can contribute to your happiness. And yet, unless your will is one with his gifts are not received. But what would make you think there is another will than his? Here is the paradox that underlies the making of the world. This world is not the will of God, and so it is not real. Yet those who think it is real must believe there is another will, and one that leads to opposite effects from those he wills. Impossible indeed, but every mind that looks upon the world and judges it as certain, solid, trustworthy, and true believes in two creators, or in one, himself alone, but never in one God. The gifts of God are not acceptable to anyone who holds such strange beliefs. He must believe that to accept God's gifts, however evident may become, however urgently he may be called to claim them as his own, is to be pressed to treachery against himself. He must deny their presence, contradict the truth, and suffer to preserve the world he made. Here is the only home he thinks he knows. Here is the only safety he believes that he can find. Without the world he made, he is an outcast, homeless and afraid. An outcast wandering so far from home, so long away, he does not realize he has forgotten where he came from, where he goes, and even who he really is. Yet, in his lonely, senseless wanderings, God's gifts go with him, all unknown to him. He cannot lose them, but he will not look at what is given him. He wanders on, aware of the futility he sees about him everywhere, perceiving how his little lot but dwindles as he goes ahead to nowhere. Still he wanders on in misery and poverty, alone, though God is with him, and a treasure his so great that everything the world contains is valueless before its magnitude. He seems a sorry figure, weary, worn, in threadbare clothing, and with feet that bleed a little from the rocky road he walks. No one but has identified with him, for everyone who comes here has pursued the path he follows, and has felt defeat and hopelessness as he is feeling them. Yet, is he really tragic when you see that he is following the way he chose and need but realize who walks with him and open up his treasures to be free? This is your chosen self, the one you made as a replacement for reality. This is the self you savagely defend against all reason, every evidence, and all the witnesses with proof to show this is not you. You heed them not. You go on your appointed way with eyes downcast, lest you might catch a glimpse of truth and be released from self deception and set free. You cower fearfully, lest you should feel Christ's touch upon your shoulder and perceive his gentle hand directing you to look upon your gifts. How could you then proclaim your poverty and exile? He would make you laugh at this perception of yourself. Where is self pity then? And what becomes of all the tragedy you sought to make for him whom God intended only joy? Your ancient fear has come upon you now, and justice has caught up with you at last. Christ's hand has touched your shoulder, and you feel that you are not alone. You even think the miserable self you thought was you may not be your identity. Perhaps God's word is truer than your own. Perhaps his gifts to you are real. Perhaps he has not wholly been outwitted by your plan to keep his son in deep oblivion and go the way that you chose without your higher self. God's will does not oppose, it merely is. It is not God you have imprisoned in your plan to lose yourself. He does not know about a plan so alien to his will. There is a need he did not understand to which he gave an answer. That is all. And you who have this answer given you have need no more of anything but this. Now do we live, for now we cannot die. The wish for death is answered, and the sight that looked upon it now has been replaced by vision which perceives that you are not what you pretend to be. One walks with you who gently answers all your fears with this one merciful reply: it is not so. He points to all the gifts you have each time the thought of poverty oppresses you, and speaks of his companionship when you perceive yourself as lonely and afraid. Yet he reminds you still of one thing more you had forgotten, for his touch on you has made you like himself. The gifts you have are not for you alone. What he has come to offer you, you now must learn to give. This is the lesson that his giving holds, for he has saved you from the solitude you sought to make in which to hide from God. He has reminded you of all the gifts that God has given you. He speaks as well of what becomes your will when you accept these gifts and recognize they are your own. The gifts are yours, entrusted to your care, to give to all who chose the lonely road you have escaped. They do not understand, they but pursue their wishes. It is you who teach them now, for you have learned of Christ. There is another way for them to walk. Teach them by showing them the happiness that comes to those who feel the touch of Christ and recognize God's gift. Let sorrow not tempt you to be unfaithful to your trust. Your sighs will now betray the hopes of those who look to you for their release. Your tears are theirs. If you are sick, you are but withholding their healing. What you fear but teaches them, their fears are justified. What you fear but teaches them, their fears are justified. Your hands become the giver of Christ's touch. Your change of mind becomes the proof that those who accept God's gift can never suffer anything. You are entrusted with the world's release from pain. Betray it not. Become the living proof of what Christ's touch can offer everyone. God has entrusted all his gifts to you. Be witness in your happiness to how transformed the mind becomes, which chooses to accept his gifts and feel the touch of Christ. Such is your mission now. For God entrusts the giving of his gifts to all who have received them. He has shared his joy with you, and now you go to share it with the world. And that's the end of lesson 166. I am entrusted with the gifts of God. As I read this, several thoughts come to my mind. I get the vision that we are walking on a path. We are either the small child running away from home, or we are on a journey that we have set out on. And actually, as I'm saying that, I get the picture of what used to be the Incredible Hulk show, where Bill Bixby, the main character's actor, would, at the end of every movie, head off down the road with his little pack of stuff. And when we are running away from home, God gives us a pack, a knapsack, a bundle for us to carry with us, and sends Jesus along to walk beside us. But what happens is we get so absorbed in our thoughts, in our fears. We get so distracted by where we go in our minds, in the ego mind, that we forget to look in the backpack. We forget that there is someone walking and waiting to be called upon. And so we think that we're alone, and we think that we're lonely, and we think that we're destitute when we have everything we need. Much like Dorothy had her shoes with her that were her ticket home. Her entire journey, she never thought to look at her shoes, to ask the questions about what they were for. And so she thought she needed to suffer in this journey. This is God telling us, I'm always with you, but I can't take over and do things for you because you would resent me if I took over. I'm allowing you to do this for yourself. What an incredible gift to be able to have all we need, to have all the tools we could need. Simply, the only task we need to do is to acknowledge them and to take those gifts out. That is what we're being asked to do. And then all of those problems that we have perceived can be resolved. Let's go on to Tina Spalding's channelings and see what she has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. These gifts are precious indeed. They are, as we mentioned earlier, things like your creativity. How are you using your creativity? Are you putting it aside as something valueless because your school system trained you to do so? Do you use it and express your unique nature through your creativity? Your creativity can look like anything, from creating a beautiful garden to training your pet through innovative ways. Creativity, you expressing your unique connection to the divine through yourself, is one of the greatest gifts you have all been given. Bring to your mind now how little creativity is valued in your society. How are you taught to value the intellect and hard work over creativity? Ask yourself, how am I ignoring or using my creativity? And is there some way I can increase that? Perhaps if you turn off your computer a little earlier in the evening, you will have more time to investigate your creativity. Perhaps if you do not listen to your financial fear thoughts, you will spend a little money on those paints or that creative outlet you have balked at because it's going to cost you a little bit to set up. Understand that we speak to you. Spirit speaks to you through your creativity in whatever form it comes. You might love to cook, write, paint, sing, or dance. It does not matter which form it is your form. Please make sure that you create things, that you bring forth your ideas and unique point of view in whatever form it takes, and share it with your brothers and sisters. This is just one of the gifts you are given by the divine. You come in with this amazing interior world, and your society only values the outside world, the car you drive, the money you earn, and the body you can exhibit. We want all of you to spend more time inside with your creativity and listen to the muse. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I will see you again tomorrow. Our creativity, the hobbies, the passions, those things that we want to do in all of our free time, those are the gifts that are packed into the bundle that we are given as we enter this world. We have the resources that we need, and we are encouraged to use them. But our ego does project everything outward, and so we forget that it's okay to be loving and joyful and spontaneous and fun. This world is a world in which we are encouraged to play. If you are not loving everything that you are doing, then you are living through the perception of the ego alone. And it is time to choose the happy dream. It's time to begin to open up the pack of resources and find what strikes your heart with joy. What are those things that you are naturally either good at or simply love to do, whether you are an, a genius at it or not? It does not matter. I have a friend who was asked once if her husband danced, and her response was, "Nobody likes to." And while that was hysterical to me, that is what our life is really meant to be like. It does not matter if we are the end all be all of dance. If dance brings joy to our heart, then dance our heart. If we love to sing, but we cannot carry a tune in a bucket, sing anyway. We do not need to be judged by anyone else. If it opens our heart and brings joy, that is what we are given to do. Use that creativity. Become aware that you are never walking alone. Become aware that if you are lonely, you are still not alone. Love yourself enough to begin to become aware and to wake up to all that has been given you. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye, guys.